Alfa Romeo, Aston Martin, and Porsche. Three prestigious car manufacturers from three different countries representing the pinnacle of racing beauty. These three car manufacturers have impressive racing histories that date back decades, and all have had their fair share of stumbles and triumphs. Welcome to Review of Performance, and today we'll be going over the Alfa Romeo 4C, the Aston Martin V12 Vantage, and the Porsche 992 GT3R, and the tracks they raced on. But before we begin, I humbly ask that you like and subscribe, so I can continue making more videos like this one. Without further ado, let's get started. The first Aston Martins to brandish the Vantage name came around in the 50s as performance variants of whatever flagship car Aston Martin had at the time. But a V12, these were not. No, the first V12 Vantage didn't exist until 1999 as the DB7 Vantage. But the first fully unique, all-on-its-own V12 Vantage finally came around in 2010. Though it shares similar design cues from the DB9 and DBS, the V12 Vantage is smaller in overall size. 1 year later, Aston Martin unveiled the V12 Vantage GT3. It would then become Aston Martin's go-to GT race car for the next 7 years. From 2012 to 2018, the V12 Vantage had racked up quite a list of wins and podiums in the 7 years it's competed in. In the British GT Championship alone, it managed over 20 wins and over 60 podiums. But much like the Gallardo, the new replaces the old. The V12 found itself replaced by a new V8 Vantage as Aston Martin's new flagship GT3 car in 2019. Watkins Glen boasts a rich historical legacy, having evolved extensively over the last 7 decades. Originally a challenging street course winding through local roads, it later transformed into a permanent road circuit. F1 would try their hand on the track, with Watkins Glen hosting the United States Grand Prix East from 1961 to 1980, until financial issues marred its final race. Neglect followed for 2 years until new ownership revitalized the track. The last change to come to the circuit was in 1992, with the addition of the bus stop chicane before Turn 5 to help slow down the cars. Today, Watkins Glen remains a vibrant venue, hosting many events from IMSA, NASCAR, and Trans Am. I'll be honest, I'm not really a fan of Watkins Glen. I can't really pinpoint my reason as to why, though. Perhaps it's the layout, as it's relatively simple to some other tracks, but so is Daytona's infield road course. Maybe it's my unfamiliarity with the circuit, as it's a track I've never really raced on until GT7, or if I have raced on it before, then that might be a nod to how forgettable either I am or the track is. That's not to say I didn't like the race as a whole, as the Vantage is a nice car to drive, but much like Road Atlanta, my opinion of the circuit has an effect on how I view the race. Watkins Glen has a lot of history to it, but I can't help but feel that the race was a dull one. and I'd really like it if the circuit could get an update with more track sections that can either be added or taken off from races, like other tracks do. Regardless, it is nice having older tracks like these on the series, kind of as a nod to racing history in a way. Alfa Romeo is one of Italy's premier car manufacturers, producing cars since 1910. In a way, you can pinpoint quite a few Italian manufacturers to them. Enzo Ferrari used to race for them as far back as 1920, and would then create the Ferrari brand, which would lead to Lamborghini's rise in the sports car industry, which would then lead to Pagani's founding when he left Lamborghini. But while Alfa Romeo was involved in a lot of racing in the 1900s, they don't compete in many racing series anymore outside of touring car racing. Even the F1 team racing with Alfa Romeo's name on the cars isn't even owned by the manufacturer. It's a partnership, one that will soon be coming to an end. Despite this, some people still want to see the Alfa Romeo brand race. In comes Polyphony with the Alfa Romeo 4C Group 3. While we have a lot of information on the road-going version of the 4C, this Group 3 car is a bit of an oddity. A road version 4C has an inline 4-cylinder turbocharged engine, but we don't really know what engine the Group 3 version has, beyond it being turbocharged. Most likely, it's powered by a turbocharged V6. Either way, the car is light and fast, and despite not having as much power output as other Group 3 or GT cars, it still manages to hold its own. Now all we need is for Alfa Romeo to build a real GT3 car. Blue Moon Bay Speedway is, in my opinion, rather dull. For one thing, it's new. Its first appearance in Gran Turismo was in GT Sport. And since I never played GT Sport, I have no connection with this track like I do with other Polyphony originals. Another reason I don't care much for this circuit is that it's small. Smaller than even the track that most likely inspired it, Pocono Raceway. While Pocono is 2.5 miles or 4 kilometers, Blue Moon Bay is only 2 miles or 3.22 kilometers. The infield road course isn't much better, being longer only by 0.082 miles. Which brings me to the time of each lap. On average, in the Alfa Romeo 4C, it took about 1 minute 8 seconds, making it the shortest and quickest track in this series. Thankfully, this helps me set limits on what tracks I choose for this series. If a track can be lapped in less than 1 minute 10 seconds, it won't be featured in this series. This eliminates the repetition caused by short tracks like this and, hopefully, less laps. Because if I did a full 4 hours at Blue Moon Bay, I most likely would have done some 200 laps, the most of any track in this series. And frankly, that's too much, even for me. As far as how the race went, it was about as dull as the track. Being spun out at the start of lap 70 was the only real highlight from the race. One notable issue I had with this race was the hairpin turn in the middle of the infield section. It's about as bad as the hairpin at Deep Forest. Since the 4C isn't as competitive as the other Group 3 cars, it struggled on the final straight multiple times trying to keep up with the other cars, and the only way I won was by taking advantage of the turns. Overall, this race will only be remembered for one thing, and that's crashing, because it's the only memorable part from the race. Porsche needs no introduction. If you know sports cars, then you already know Porsche. They've proven time and again they know how to build sports cars. So it's no surprise that their newest addition to the 911 family, the 2023 992 GT3R, is just another success story in the making. With as much power and handling as one can expect from a Porsche, this car offers an amazing experience for anyone who chooses to drive it. Even better, this new Porsche is already winning, having won its first race at the 2023 12 Hours of Sebring. This car is just another example of Porsche's racing prowess, and I can now say that I'm a proud Porsche fan after having driven this car to first place. Much like how the 992 is new, so is Circuit of the Americas, or COTA. Or at least relatively new, as it was only recently opened in 2012. Since then, it's boasted all sorts of racing events from Formula 1, MotoGP, the World Endurance Championship, NASCAR, and GT World Challenge America. The 3.43 mile or 5.51 kilometer circuit offers many different challenges, from the Senna S at turns 3, 4, and 5, to the 1 kilometer straight after turn 11, to the highest point of the track, turn 1, nicknamed the Big Red, named after Red McCombs, the track's biggest investor during its construction. And as of this recording, it's the longest track to feature in this series. While the race itself wasn't as good as I'd like it to be, I really enjoyed it in the moment. COTA is really fun to race at, and because it's the first race in the series to be featured in ACC, it really showed me how the bots in that game operate. And while I haven't figured out exactly how to get the races to be both fun and challenging, I look forward to more races in the game as this series progresses. This race was also the first time I had to deal with driver swapping, though considering most tires and fuel last an entire stint, whenever the driver's stint ended, I swapped tires and refueled, really just eliminating the problem altogether. That being said, it does bring about a new factor to deal with, and I actually like that it's something you deal with at all. Overall, this race sits just below Daytona in how much I enjoyed it, and when it comes to my races in ACC, I can't wait to do more. Whether it's the agile Alfa Romeo 4C, the formidable Aston Martin V12 Vantage, or the precision-engineered Porsche 992 GT3R, each car embodies the essence of its manufacturer's commitment to performance and innovation. And while not all the circuits were as entertaining as I'd like, they all offered unique challenges that make them all stand out. And in the end, that's all I really want from this series, to showcase some amazing cars and unique tracks. Thank you for sticking around until the end. As always, I'd really appreciate it if you'd like and subscribe to help grow the channel. While I may not upload or stream consistently, the bigger my channel gets, the more time I'll be able to put into videos like this one, as well as streaming more often. And like last video, if you feel like I missed any information or got anything wrong, let me know in the comments. Any criticism and feedback is much appreciated. Before you go, I will be doing the next race in this series on the 18th, which as of this recording is tomorrow. So if you'd like to see that race live, feel free to follow my Twitch to see the next race at Atlanta Motorsports Park. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.